Let me ask you the same question I asked Daniel. Are you, you have children as well, I've heard. Do you,
do they talk?
Yeah. Parenting seems like it's basically an advice-giving job, right?
They don't talk yet. We're hoping second grade.
Oh. How do you give advice to someone who doesn't speak? Larry?
With physical motion.
I see. Could you give me an example of what?
Not in front of them.
Well, maybe you.
No, my kids ask for advice all the time. It doesn't pay.
It doesn't pay.
No, I said I get paid for that. So.
Do you want to read from your selection? We could keep talking if you wanted to.
No.
I don't see why you want to stop. It was going so well.
Start with the suicide.
I knew you were just setting it up. That's the whole thing. We're just setting it up. Thanks, Jesus.
Dear Larry, this year I will be turning 27, which, as we all know, is the ripest age for suicide. Several of my friends have gone before me at the age of 27, not suicide, and my time is fast approaching. I can't help but feel despair. Do you have any advice on how to cope with the past 27 suicide-free, life-after-death lifestyle? Wendy, Cleveland, Ohio. Dear Wendy, there's no way to make it past 27 without committing suicide and not feel somewhat of a failure. After that magical age, one risks ending a life no longer worth living, undermining the romance of it all. Hemingway blew his brains out at 61, depriving the world of what? A 1,000-page, slightly more pornographic Garden of Eden? Wendy, you are right to stick with your plan. Your post-suicidal friends will try to talk you out of it, but in the end, they will admire your gumption. So tragically self-snuffed. I've since thought about that and thought maybe that wasn't the best.
You might want to try to get back to her. Hope for the best.
So, in the next edition, just change that to hang in there, baby. Let's see. And here's one about cancer.
Well, they asked the right guy these questions.
Dear Larry, I have a mole on my cheek with irregular edges that my husband thinks might be melanoma. But I'm afraid of going to the dermatologist and letting him hack it off because my mole is one of my most interesting things about my face. Is being unique worth a little skin cancer? Signed, Sherry Cole. Dear Sherry, of course. However, you may want to consider how interesting your face will look with a big hole in it. Dear Larry, all of us up here in Canada are a little nervous about what the guys in the United States are up to. You're not planning to invade us anytime soon, are you? Just give us a heads up, and that's all we're asking. Cheers, Bridget K. Winnipeg. And then NB, whatever that is. Dear Bridget, no, not at all. Please continue disarming your populace and emasculating your men with draconian pornography laws.
Larry Doyle. Down to the slide. Marc Maron. Marc Maron is also a stand-up comedian. He's made more than 40 appearances on Late Night with Conan O'Brien, which I believe is a record, right? You're the most Conanist guy appearing as...
I'm one. I'm one. It's helped me a lot.
Specials on Comedy Central and HBO, and his own show on Air America, a book, several comedy albums, and a hilarious podcast called WTF. Marc Maron.
Pleasure to meet you. I really like your approach to this hosting thing. I
fill it up with mindless chatter?
No.
Or prepare at all?
I think it's a unique way to approach it. It's very engaging. It almost seems like you have no plan at all.
Yeah. It's progressive. I like it.
Very progressive.
Hey Mark, have you ever been encountered a wild animal?
It's funny you should ask, Andrew. I had an event with a hummingbird recently. Well, this is sort of an advice sort of thing. I have several hummingbirds. I once was in a very down place, a very angry place, and I coincidentally found 2 broken hummingbird feeders that I decided to rebuild with spite. Which is really not the way to go into building a relationship with cute, adorable hummingbirds. I was literally hoping that they would be my friends. I was putting these hummingbird feeders together saying, these fuckers better come. And I put them together and I put them out on both sides of my house, and I sat there and I waited, you know, like I put this work in, come. So they came, and I was surprised at how vicious and horrible hummingbirds are. They're horribly mean to each other. They're despicable little things, and like I'll watch them feed on my back porch, and like they'll all wait up in the tree to come down to feed, and then when one of them comes down to feed, 2 other ones will come and try to blindside it and start beating up on it. Every day is like a very adorable small version of Top Gun on my deck. And I've actually had moments where they're mean and they will stand me down. I've walked outside of my house and right where the feeder is, and one of them will just go psst and just see right here. And I'll be like, is there a problem? And then as I interpreted the language of the movement, it was, yeah, what are you gonna do about it, fucker? And I cowered off, because I don't know what they're capable of, what their beats and their intentions. But recently what happened was, and this is sort of a moral question for me, is I heard that sound. I was writing in my living room, and I heard that it's a very specific percussive note that can only be one thing. It's a boom. And you know the sound if you know the sound. It's a bird hitting the window. And I knew when the hummingbirds had flown into the window, and I didn't know what to do about it, and I didn't even want to look at it. And I'm sad to say that my first reaction was, I'm going to let my cat out. Like, I rationalize it. Like, these things happen in the wild. What am I going to do? Am I going to put it in a box and bring it in? I'm not 7. I don't need to learn about that. Your parents knew. And then I thought twice of it. You know, I thought, like, well, you can't just do that. You can't let little LaFonda out and just facilitate the cycle of life. It didn't happen naturally. So it sat out there for 10 minutes. And I looked out the window and I noticed it hadn't broken its neck because it was just sitting there looking around. So I thought I'd go check it out. And right when I opened the door and walked out, it looked at me and it just went psst, and it flew off. And I just sat there trying to figure out, well, what was it doing? And I decided that it was ashamed of itself. That it needed a few minutes to sit there and go, I'm a fucking idiot. I've been around this hummingbird feeder for months. I knew that window was there. God damn it! I hope no one saw me. And then he saw me, he's like, I'm not prepared to take that guy on today. I gotta get out. So yes, I have had a run-in with a wild animal. Well, I think if you ask me about marriage or something, it'll get kind of ugly.
By round of applause, would you like to hear about marriage? That sounds pretty good. Yeah. Hey, it's kind of an ugly crowd.
I'm familiar with the idea of Judaism. I was brought up.
Do you have any advice?
By the way, you don't know what you're in for. You fucked up.